Yo, what is up, gamers? My name is Russ, and today I bring you news hot off the press. This was posted 3 minutes ago on Wowhead, so I am absolutely on it today. And some important news for anyone who likes Mythic Plus. We have a couple of updates about the affixes going into next season. So first of all, Season 2 affixes is removing Quaking, Grevious, and Volcanic. So very interesting there. A lot of people had problems with Quaking this season specifically because of a lot of mechanics in the dungeons themselves actually forcing you to kind of stack up, and then the Quaking comes in and they've actually had to remove that overlap from a lot of the dungeons. For example, on the third boss Bonemore in Shadow Moon Burial Grounds, when he does the winds and it sucks you in, you have to stack in a little pool to not get dragged. They removed Quaking from happening there. It still happens on Herja when you're inside the shield, which is it's fine, you can spread out within that shield, but sometimes thundering also happens at the exact same time, forcing you to not have as much room to stand, and you kind of have to overlap some. Again, like second boss Court of Stars, as the imps spawn, you kind of got to stack up to keep those imps packed up nice and tight so you can DPS them down. And well, quite often the Quaking overlaps with every single one of those imp spawns. So they've, I guess, acknowledged that Quaking is a bit of a problem. They don't want to have to keep thinking about it and taking it into account when probably designing dungeons. They don't want to have to think about, oh, what if Quaking happens at this point? It gives them a bit more creative freedom to do things in the actual dungeon design and things, if they don't have to think about an affix, which is supposed to be an afterthought to add on to the top of dungeons. So Grievous is gone as well. One of the less enjoyed mechanics, especially for certain healers. This one's been a thorn in our side, honestly, since it got redesigned from its original version, which was called Overflowing back in Legion. Grievous has just been terrible. I think they've changed how it works like 3 or 4 times by now. Clearly it's not working, so they've just decided to scrap it, which is great because yes, certain healers struggle a bit more with this one than others, and it just means that it's leading to like a miserable experience for a lot of healers, and that's never fun. You don't want to be playing these dungeons. There's a common theme through these affixes. You don't want to really be playing these dungeons and just be like, oh, I don't want to log in this week, like no one enjoys that. It's not fun to have to take a week hiatus from a game that you actually want to play. So that's pretty terrible. And on top of that, Volcanic's going. I guess they just thought this one's really not doing much. Personally, I'm not like happy to see it go, but I'm also not sad either. It doesn't really do anything. So I think they want to start being a little bit more imaginative with their affix combos. This one was a bit of a non-issue for most times, and it would usually signal a push week. So maybe they want to bring the top down and the bottom up to keep these affixes a little bit more even across the board. So here's how the current affix pools are looking going into the season. We do have a couple of new ones, which I'll talk about in a second and give my initial gut reactions and first thoughts on. But we are not having a season 10 affix. So, it's not season. We're not having Keystone level 10 affix this time around. So how they work currently is you get a tyrannical or fortified at level 2 key, which is the lowest it can be. And then at level 4, it will attach one affix from a first pool of options. And then at level 7, it will attach a second one. And then at level 10, it will do the seasonal one, which is currently Thundering in Season 1 and has been a bunch of different stuff in the past. Now there is no seasonal affix for next season. And they've talked about maybe bringing in some of the older seasonal affixes into potentially these pools in future. But as it's looking for Season 2 right now, at time of recording, we're going to have in the level 4 difficulty Spiteful, Sanguine, Bursting, Bolstering, and Raging. So we know all of these ones already. And then there are a couple new ones in the level 7 ones, Incorporeal, Afflicted, Entangling, Explosive, and Storming. So we already know Explosive. That's pretty much the same, but they have updated it a little bit, which I'll talk about in a second. And Storming is how we probably don't like it and don't enjoy it. Those little tornadoes that fly around and knock you up, which can be soaked by a tank or anyone else, but very, very annoying, especially as a ranged. So let's talk about the new ones. We have Incorporeal. It reads, while in combat, incorporeal beings appear and attempt to destabilize players with spells that reduce their damage and healing done. Incorporeal beings are susceptible to all forms of crowd control. So that means they can be CC'd, they can most likely be interrupted, and it looks like they're going to kind cast spells on party members, probably just randomly targeted, or maybe they do an AoE. Maybe there's like 3 or 4 different incorporeal beings that could spawn at any time. So maybe one of them needs to be kicked, one of them needs to be stunned or like hard CC'd or something like that. Maybe one does like an AoE cast, one does a single target bolt or something, which may reduce your party members' damage healing and stuff like that. My immediate gut reaction to this one is that there's already quite a lot to be thinking about in most packs, especially in Dragonflight. Seems like a common theme for Blizzard to be doing is building more and more and more like kicks that you need to do in every single pack, stops and everything like that. A stop is just like a hard CC that will stop a cast. It can be used as like a pseudo kick, or it can be used, some abilities like need to be stopped. For example, the earth shield guys at the beginning of Ruby Life Pools, they'll do a big cast that does like a big AoE. You usually want to stop that one. Or upstairs in Ruby Life Pools, the flame dancers, they do that flame dance that needs to be stopped as well, or do a big AoE damage in your group. That's an example of a stop. Can't be kicked, but it can be stunned. People throughout Dragonflight so far have already kind of started talking a little bit about how Blizzard is, you know, every single pack has like 2 kicks, 3 kicks, and like 3 stops. And you need like an AoE stun or 2 or knock up or whatever. For example, some of those trash mobs in Knockwood, for example, around that storm boss, is a lot of stops and kicks happening around there. Sometimes in your average pug is a bit much to keep up with, in my opinion. So adding another layer on top, like Incorporeal will do, is going to make for a bit of a teething issue, to say the least, in this new season. So next up we have Afflicted then. While in combat, afflicted souls appear that seek the aid of players. Afflicted souls spawn with poison, curse, and disease afflictions. Removing any of these afflictions or restoring the spirit to full health causes it to despawn. So how I read that is it will spawn with all 3 of those, poison, curse, and disease. And it will basically give you 4 options in how to deal with it, either dispel the poison, curse, or disease, one of them. Not magic, by the way, so specific people in your group, for example, you know, druids, shamies, and mages can do curses. I think shamies can do poisons as well. I think priests and paladins and monks can do diseases, for example. So you got options with your classes, and if you don't have any of those, then you can always just opt to heal it to full health to deal with it as well. So your healer can do that, or people can help with off healing, maybe. Unlikely. And failure to remove their afflictions in time will inflict players with a negative status effect. So don't really know what that means. It could be a minus DPS minus healing status effect. It could be a dot on you. Who knows? It could be, you know, like a casting speed reduction, something bad. So you obviously always want to deal with this, but hopefully not like an instant wipe mechanic. So depending on how bad it is, you might even be able to ignore it. Not that you would if it's just like one global to do like a decurse or a, you know, disease dispel or something like that. So that one looks kind of fine. It's good that they're giving an option for group comps that don't contain a poison, curse, and disease, that a healer can just, you know, if you're pugging or something, every healer just has the option to just heal it. I don't know if it'll spawn on your party frames or close to that, or if you kind of have to like look out for its health bar in like nameplates, or watch for where it's spawning or something. Hopefully they make that quite obvious. Maybe it's like a really big model or something, so you can easily spot when it's spawning and just click it. So the next one is Entangling. While in combat, entangling vines ensnare players. Personally, I think this one sounds kind of bad. That's my gut reaction. There's already a lot of things which kind of require you to be somewhere positionally. Just randomly becoming unable to move sounds, to be honest, really, really terrible. I know I play a demon hunter right now. They're very, very reliant on being able to move at all times. Imagine just becoming randomly ensnared for 4 seconds. It essentially means you can't do your DPS rotation. Or what if you've just done a fell rush and you fell rush through the mobs and you get snared, and now you're out of range of all the mobs and you can't do anything. So it sounds pretty terrible, to be honest. I don't know if it'll be, you know, a vine at your feet and you can attack it. Maybe it has a health bar, so, you know, if you don't want to be entangled, you can hit the thing under your feet. Maybe it'll passively die to AoE. Maybe it will be unaffected by AoE ability, so you actually have to physically click it and kill it. I don't really know. I assume these will be up for testing this week, but this is just kind of my instant gut reaction. Sounds pretty not fun, but it could be a non-issue. You know, if they're removing Volcanic, maybe this is just a really easy one that they're adding back in its place, right? I had another thought while I was watching this back, and it could just be an overall slow. I forgot that a snare doesn't necessarily mean a root. I think that's my League of Legends brain, but it could just be like you're all the time while in combat slowed by 30% or something like that. So could just be an overarching slow, or it could be something annoying like I explained in the video, where it's just like a randomly getting rooted. Now that I think about it, it's probably just the slow, but we'll have to wait and see. And then we have the last one, which is just an update to explosive, and thank God fewer explosive orbs will spawn. So that means that you are not kind of like limited in the way that you can pull or how many mobs that you can pull. Now when it's explosive week, you kind of got to make sure that you have a dedicated explosive killer, usually the healer, and now they actually have more health, so there's fewer orbs with more health, so healer can't really solo it now because it was just like one click, one global. Now that DPS will probably have to help out, but less often. So that kind of feels a little bit better for the DPS players, a little bit better for the healer. This is probably like a okay compromise. I can't complain about this one, to be honest, especially the big pulls like, you know, for example, the first pull if you go into the tree room in Algathar's Academy right now. Obviously that won't be in next season, but this is an example of a big pull where you want to pull a lot of mobs and you're basically just like, sometimes you just can't really do damage because there's so many explosives spawning all the time. And what seems to happen right now is like no explosives will spawn for like 8 seconds and then all the explosives will spawn in like 2 seconds. So then you have like 12 explosive orbs going off and you don't really have the, you know, global cooldowns to actually be able to get them all. That's a pretty terrible situation. So hopefully, you know, they don't have like a lot of health, but maybe like triple the health that they have right now and spawn 3 times less. That would be okay in my opinion. But we'll have to wait and see what they do. Anyway, that's the end of the post. Just my thoughts on the new affixes. Super excited for season 2. And yeah, this is going to be the start of, I guess, maybe potentially videos in future. I will just give a quick read of Wowhead, find something that I think is kind of cool or I like, and yeah, just give my opinion on it. So like the video if you want to see more of these, and go head over to the Twitch stream and subscribe to the YouTube. All right, have a great day, and as always, peace.